favorite poems since I was in high school, and yes, I said high school and poem, was written by Robert Frost and is called The Road Not Taken. Here are a few lines. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. I still have that poem framed and hanging in my office today. And I'd always thought the poem was about our choices, an introspection into the choices we make and the impact on our life path. But what I found out recently was that Robert Frost actually wrote the poem as a joke for his friend Edward Thomas. A joke. You see, the two would take regular walks through the woods, and Thomas was chronically indecisive about which path to take, and would always wonder what the other path would have revealed had they only gone that way. Frost was mocking his indecisiveness, a joke. Something that I've used somewhat as a guidepost for my entire adult life was written as a joke. Now, I'm not here to dissect Frost's poem, but I will tell you that it is not about the road less traveled. It's that both roads were equally untraveled. Think about that. When I was young, I thought I had my life all figured out. Graduate high school, graduate college, get a well-paying, prestigious job, travel the world, get married, start a family. That was my plan, and in that order. But what I found out was that life is all about the decisions and choices you make every single day, as well as the ones you don't make. Darren Hardy calls it the compound effect. Jeff Olson, the slight edge. And I've always believed that everything happens for a reason, and that there's a lesson to be learned. And there's a reason for every person that has come in and out of my life. I don't believe in coincidence. I just need to connect the dots. So I went to a Catholic private high school on scholarship, though I didn't realize it at the time. And I had a lot of friends whose parents were very well off and professionals in their field. And I made a lot of valuable connections, though I didn't realize it at the time. So remember that plan to graduate from college right after high school? Well, because of pressure from my mother, I turned down a scholarship to a college up in Northern California because she didn't want me to move. I attended a local college, and without the scholarship money, it became a struggle, and I couldn't maintain my studies and work full-time. And so I could have chosen to push through, continue working, take out loans, but I decided to take a year off and work full-time. They call that a gap year now. And I got a job as a receptionist at a law office through one of my high school friends whose dad was the senior partner. And though I'd had several jobs throughout the course of my life, this was the one that was going to change everything in my life. I didn't realize at the time, though. You see, this fill-in job took me on a path that would lead me to the love of my life and a love of the law. It introduced me to a martial art called Aikido and started me on a path to full-time entrepreneurship. Crazy, right? I take a job answering phones and all that. The attorney I work for owned the two-story building that we worked in, and when he decided to do some renovations, I became the contact person for the contractor. And that contractor, well, he changed my life. But not in the way you might be thinking. He was married and had just had a baby. But he was also a martial artist. And one day, he decided to show me a technique, because that's what you do in the front office of a law firm. Well, he ended up hurting my wrist doing Nikyo, which is a wrist twisting technique. And when we realized that it was a somewhat serious injury, He took me to see his sensei, who was also a healer, and I stayed to watch a class, which, by the way, was just down the street from where I was living at the time. I was invited back to try a class, and though I had never once in my entire life shown any desire to do martial arts, I decided to take a chance. I was fascinated. Me, the ballerina, the pianist, and violinist. I ended up earning my black belt, and I also met a boy named Kevin who started training at my dojo. We're celebrating our 20th wedding anniversary next year. And I did go back to school, but not to get my college degree. I ended up getting a paralegal certificate at the University of San Diego. You see, that love of law had creeped up on me, just like the martial arts, and I was fascinated. After working for a couple of different law firms, I realized that I really wanted to be my own boss because I was good at what I did, and I got assigned many of the really large cases, the ones that were all-consuming. I was tired and wanted more control over my day-to-day activities. And so, in my infinite wisdom, I quit my job and became a paralegal consultant. Freedom. What I hadn't quite thought through or realized was that, yes, I could now pick and choose the cases I wanted to work on. I could work as many hours or as few as I wanted to. There was this little thing called benefits that I wasn't getting anymore. You know, medical coverage, paid vacation time. Yeah, I didn't quite think that one through. Burnout came back hard, and what I once loved was now frustrating me. And to top it all off, we were living paycheck to paycheck with no end in sight. And then we met someone through Aikido who had all the right answers for us. He was starting a new business, and he wanted Kevin and myself to become partners with him. We would bring our knowledge and our connections. We'd build ownership through sweat equity. He would bring the cash, and boom, we could quit our jobs and start something with real promise, a pathway to entrepreneurial freedom. Young, eager, ready for a change, we took that leap. By the way, did I mention we had just bought our first new home? Yeah, new home, new business. And then reality set in. We were working 50 to 60 hours a week, and our contract for that partnership never did get signed. We would request a change, he wouldn't agree, but we kept working. Our attorney advised us against continuing, but we were eager to prove ourselves. Kevin was salaried, and I was on commission, and slowly things went from bad to worse. Paychecks were delayed, excuses were made, commission structures changed every single time I hit a goal. Close to losing our new home, we had to borrow money from friends just to make the mortgage. We had so little money that we had one Blockbuster movie rental a month, and we ate a lot of top ramen and mac and cheese. When I finally decided I'd had enough, I reached out to an attorney friend that I used to work with, and he immediately hired me. Kevin stayed on because we still held out hope that somehow this business would ultimately succeed. And then 2 weeks went by without a paycheck, 2 weeks more, and I was still owed money from commissions. You know that sinking feeling you get in the pit of your stomach that something bad is about to happen? Yeah, it was about to happen, but we didn't realize how soon. You see, tension at the business got so bad that our partner just stopped talking to either of us. He'd show up, leave work unexpectedly. We should have confronted him, but we were young, naive, and thought that just somehow it's just all going to work itself out. When we finally decided we'd had enough and we wanted to get our money and get out, I wrote a demand letter. Remember, litigation paralegal here. And amazingly, we received 2 certified checks 3 days later. And then he filed for bankruptcy less than a week later and shut down the entire business. We subsequently found out that he hadn't been paying any of our creditors, but had been taking money from our customers and members up until the moment he shut the doors down. Had we waited 1 week, we would have been swept up in the bankruptcy and lost everything, including our new home. Different choices, different results. Through the connections and relationships we made during that time, we were able to save our new home. Kevin got retraining and a new career in IT. We decided to open up our own martial arts school. I had learned some hard lessons, but I was willing to plunge ahead and do this new business. I finally received my college degree 15 years later. Though I loved being a litigation paralegal, I gotta tell you, burnout is real. And I had always loved teaching and had been teaching at our martial arts school. And so I entered the integrated credential program over at Cal State San Marcos, and I received a bachelor's degree in liberal studies, a minor in sociology, and my teaching credentials. I started teaching at a local elementary school where the population was about 93% ELL. I loved teaching, especially my little second language learners. You see, I'm a second language learner myself. Croatian is my first language. And I was able to reach out and help my students learn and understand. I could give them real-life examples and experiences to help them succeed. And through teaching, I learned how important it was to build community around our school. And I learned to involve the parents and the neighborhood and the surrounding businesses to ensure that our students receive the best education possible and were exposed to all the opportunities that they needed to grow and succeed. And then we applied those lessons to our small business. Unfortunately, I started teaching at a time when the California educational system was struggling, again. And I was hired every year, and I was fired every year. And so in 2010, we decided it was time for me to take another leap. You see, I'd always had a side business, but never could make the time to work on it. And my husband needed help at our martial arts school. And so 30 days after closing escrow on our second home, I quit my salaried teaching job and never looked back. Today, I run 2 successful businesses. We've traveled to Thailand, the Western Caribbean, we've zip-lined through the jungles of Honduras, and we have a trip planned to Tahiti. And though we recently had to shut down our dojo due to COVID-19, we've already pivoted and we're moving on. From these experiences, I learned how important it was to build community around my business. And I learned that all the connections and relationships I made along the way were critical to achieving my goals. Every decision I made along the way, consciously or unconsciously, led me down a path. Was it luck or coincidence? Or was it the ripple effect of the micro choices and decisions I made every single day? All I know is 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference.